I'd like to remind you where the fire exits are, and I'd like everyone to stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Routine matters, Board of Education minutes, February 13th, 2024. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, additions, or corrections? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Presentations, proposed college courses, art college courses from Melissa Polkovich, and MVCC Sports Management and Business courses from Jake Smith. Melissa, I guess you're up.
Okay, so I do have a little handout first. I was making extra copies because there were more up here than I prepared. So this is part of the slideshow. I didn't do the first little part, but something for you to look at that corresponds to a little bit later in the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I did want to start my presentation with a little bit of good news. So for anybody who doesn't know, my name is Melissa Pelkovic. I've worked in the Canastota School District for 19 years. This is my second year as a 9 through 12 art teacher. As I said, I'd like to start my presentation with good news. For those of you who don't know, the Scholastic Art Awards is a regional art competition that can lead to state and national awards. Students from 14 counties and 87 junior and senior high schools around central New York submitted artwork for consideration. This year it was a little muddled, but it ended up being mid-January. And all students submitted nearly 4,500 pieces. A panel of professional artists, educators, and photographers judged the pieces and selected 1,376 works for Gold Key, Silver Key, and honorable mentions in 17 categories. Mrs. Melissa Bunio and I would like to congratulate the following students on their awards. We had 5 gold keys, 2 silver keys, and 6 honorable mentions from Elizabeth Dungy, Emma Farwell, Kara Kitchen, Luciana Muir, Alexandria Ritchie, Lorena Coleman, Kara Kitchen, and Gretchen Coonrad, Connor Farwell, Natalie Jacobs, Kara Kitchen, Maddie Snyder, and Gabrielle Tyler. So we are super excited. We then arranged a trip with over 70 students to go to Onondaga Community College to go see the show. We took our Scholastic winners, all of our students who entered pieces in the show, and then we tried to bring along future entrants that to inspire them to hopefully rise to the level, so we will have more entrants and hopefully more gold and silver key winners next year. Which brings us to why I am here. Swipe. No, not that sweet spot I can hit. Let's see. There we go. So we are here. I am here to propose, and I'm going to start to work with this. OCC courses for your approval. Over winter break, I submitted and was approved through OCC for 2 college courses. Their Ceramics 1 program and their 3D design program, which basically for us correlates to ceramics and sculpture, like we already have here in Canastota. I offer, which I have on the next page, our current offerings right now are Ceramics 1, and then, which is a half-a-year course, which is then in the fall, which is then followed by Sculpture, which is a half-year course offered in the spring. And this is what our course catalog description looks like. If students finish this with me, they then get to move on to Ceramics and Sculpture 2. So these are the course descriptions for the OCC courses, what Ceramics 1 looks like for them, and then what their 3D design course looks like. So that is also in front of you on a slide. I don't know if you are interested in me reading the courses through to you, if you would like me to do that, or if you're good with it in front of you. Read it? Yes?
I don't think you have to read.
You don't think
word
so?
for
Okay,
word.
I don't know how much
I
you
must have been
want me
shaking
to
my head the
read.
wrong
I can
way.
make this presentation shorter or longer. It's up to you. So these are the course descriptions that OCC has given us. And then what the art department has been working off of for a while is this kind of flow chart. What we really have, and why we think this would be beneficial for our department, is we do currently offer college courses in drawing and painting. So this would really round out our department so that we could offer a ceramics and sculpture, giving a 3D college courses to our students. So that would really kind of fill out our program and give students who are interested in three-dimensional artwork an option. And then what I'm going to show in my next slide. So right now, students have 8th grade art, studio art, they have DDP, and then these are all of their electives. And what I'm going to show next is the demand and how the program has grown. Yes?
So kids right now, they've taken they will have taken those two, the yellow and the blue, with you from us, right? And get school credit.
Yep.
But then if they're interested and they're good, then your hope is they're gonna go to the
They can move on
green.
to this. Yes. And so what we're thinking, if this is approved, and for next year, so I have a few students who, let's say, they're juniors right now in Ceramics 1 with me, and I have a few kids who are in this. We have kind of put in the language and talked to students is if they have taken and passed Ceramics 1 with me with teacher approval, and they're a senior next year, we will allow them to take the college credit course, because they didn't know. And we will kind of always keep that option to them. If they're a senior and they've already taken either a lot of art or they have taken Ceramics 1 and with teacher approval, they can move on and take the college credit. So we will always kind of give that option, because they only have so much time in high school. So we will keep that option open to them as long as they have taken some ceramics and shown proficiency, because it is a intro ceramics course in college. So, you know, they don't have to be technically amazing at it.
Now, before you flip the slide here, I see the top green is MVCC,
Yes.
right? This is OCC.
OCC. MVCC does not have
Okay, that's-
a ceramics program. So that is why we went to OCC, yes.
Because there has been a-
We talked to them, we go there, we had already taken a field trip there with them, and we kept talking to them, and we were like, please, and they're like, no, we don't have a ceramics program. So that's why we went to OCC, yep, to get that credit. So the next slide is what we are super excited about. When I started here last fall, I had 22 students in ceramics. This year I have 48 students in ceramics. With our electives roadshow, with discussions with students currently in art, I have 60 kids ready to take ceramics next year. between Ceramics 1, Ceramics 2, and interested in the college course. So I have almost tripled my program for ceramics and interest. So hopefully I will have 3 sections of ceramics next fall. So I did go through, I have not been to the OCC training yet. So I roughed out what the basic differences between what is taught, and it was just a rough breakdown for you. Ceramics 1, we're basically teaching construction methods. Ceramics 2, we're getting more into concepts and them really generating their own ideas using the construction methods. And then based on what I've seen of the OCC, their curriculum, it is more functional items, and learning about their construction and really focusing in on decorative techniques and learning how to make the different slips and production techniques and really honing in more on different glazes. So that's really for the ceramics. And sculpture is a whole other ball of wax. There's so many different techniques with so many different materials. You know, I'm still diving really deep with that curriculum myself, and really we're just focusing on materials. And for me, for Sculpture 1, it's really teacher-driven projects with those materials. Sculpture 2, we're really trying to get them to work on their own ideas, and I really am interested in what they're going to give me for sculpture through OCC, but I haven't gotten that too much information from them yet.
Questions?
Any questions?
I just have one quick
Yeah.
question. On the enrollment numbers for this year, are those the current numbers or what, the current number?
Yes.
Sort of going along with the courses that Melissa's talking about, about a few weeks ago when we were talking about the renovations to the art rooms, which we're looking forward to because she, you know.
I literally walked in Monday as I'm getting out 5 different projects for 5 different courses, and they each need their own space and room to get stuff out, and I was like, I just need more room.
That's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
So yeah, no, it's a lot, and they all need their own place and home, and I try to be a very organized art teacher, and it's a lot. And the kids appreciate that. They're always like, your stuff's so neat, except for like that pile over there. And I was like, yeah, I know. So.
Good.
Thank you and congratulations on the first part of the presentation.
Thank you. Yes, we're very excited about Scholastic.
So what happened, I mean, as far as the course, you know, does that, in a future board meeting, what happens to accepting it or whatever?
Yeah, we can do a resolution to say that we're going to be offering the course. We know, it sounds like that we have strong demand for this course, but at least it opens the door for us to be able to offer it. Then we look at interest and how many kids would be in it. But again, it sounds like the interest is
I
very
have
strong. So
16, like 14 solid for ceramics 3, the OCC courses. Yes, that's about my numbers for that course.
And how many kids are in the MVC one?
In the drawing and painting, I don't teach that. That's Mrs. Munoz. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
have the numbers for that.
So I think at this point, we're saying, doesn't sound like there's any other questions at this point. You have a training, so I would say you move ahead, we can move ahead with getting it on formally.
Okay.
And then you can move ahead with, because the training comes up in a month or month and a half or whatever.
Yes, and we need for guidance to sign students up, that's what it is.
So you have high school students and Melissa has high school students too then?
Yes, her and I are both, she does more the drawing and painting, she does the MBCC portfolio, she teaches those courses. I do digital photography, ceramics and sculpture, I teach studio, she has a studio, yes.
Thank you. Jake?
Okay, I don't have a fixed presentation, but I do have my voice. So I'm looking to get 2 courses approved myself. So I believe all of you have information on it within something right now? Yeah? Did I give it something?
Yes,
Okay.
you have the packet
Who does?
in the file.
It was an
It was in the
attachment.
attachments.
Yeah, it's in the,
Well,
it was
It was in the
attachment.
attachment, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
And this
Um,
packet.
yeah.
All right, so I'm looking to offer Foundations of Sports Management right here at Canastota, separate from the BOCES program that's going on now. Offering the Foundations of Sports Management, which is 3 credits in Principles of Marketing through MVCC. Both courses are really going to, put kids in a work-based learning situation, and that's really the goal of these courses. So the biggest things that we're looking at is to take those current relationships that we've built through the BOCES program and within ourselves throughout these last 2 years of doing that program, and kind of using those to progress this thing forward as far as getting kids more internships, allowing kids to intern here at sports games, make things like posters for games in the marketing class, make working the games, things like that. So beyond the dual credit as well, one of the goals of the program is also to provide 54 hours of work-based learning hours through our work-based learning coordinators. We have 3 of you, right, here that are even available. So providing 54 hours to get another half credit per class. So they get another half credit for working or being exposed to work-based learning throughout the school year. So last year in the BOCES program, we provided 93 hours throughout the year. So 54 would be very, very, very simple to do. I mean, between working at the school and all the guest speakers that we've had and all the opportunities we've had to work with different organizations. I guess I'm good for questions. I mean, a lot of it I put into that.
And again, the intent is to, with the programs that we've worked with in partnership with BOCES, it gives us the flexibility so that we're able to offer them locally, depending on how everything plays out in the coming years with those types of programs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one thing I will say towards the sport management program, we had from the students that had gone into sports management last year and did the BOCES program here with us, we had full retention, not counting one kid that actually left the state. And there's 11 of those students that were juniors last year, and 8 of them are going to school for sport management, going to college for sport management. They've enjoyed the program so much, they've learned so much, that they've allowed or chose to continue their college career in the field as well. Currently at BOCES, it's not being offered as a college course. Here, we would be able to do that, provide as a college course.
And this is only for our students, correct?
This would be for only our students.
So will there be no, in other words, BOCES won't be here, or at least you won't be part of
I wouldn't be
BOCES?
part of the BOCES.
We're not there yet as far as the program, that's stuff we're
Correct.
working through. So
Okay.
part of our calculation was we want to make sure we're protecting the district, that we can still offer classes that we know. For example, Jake's done a great job with building a program really from scratch in the last couple of years, but that particular program is a BOCES program. It's partnership. There's more moving pieces to that program. This is a way of making sure that, again, depending on how all of that stuff works out and all of the different arrangements and partnerships work out, we still would have the ability to do things locally, And so it's a way of protecting, I think, our ability to be able to offer those courses that we know, as Jake said, there's a huge demand for with our kids, and the kids that have taken them have stuck with the program for multiple years now.
Yeah, stuck with the program and want to pursue it further. That's where I really hang my hat on, that I really watch them grow. Most importantly, I know everything says sports on it. This is hospitality. This is customer service skills. This is getting out in front of people, public speaking. These are just skills. We use sports because it's a nice conduit and people flock to sports. But we're really building skills for those going to college and not going to college. The whole thing is to foster and make sure that we are building people that are leaving this place, leaving the school, and many which stay. The reason I became a teacher is I became a Canastota teacher. I've told you that in my interview, and it's really better our community. So whether they consider, whether they leave here or stay here, the program itself has helped build better people, better employees, better bosses, to build our own community. That's ultimately the goal.
So is this 2 courses or is this 1 course?
2 courses.
So
2 full-year courses.
2 full-year courses.
Correct.
So 3 credit hours, how many credit hours are there? 6
So
each?
Each course would get 3 credit hours. So it'd be 2 separate courses. So they could be taken at the same time. They could be taken throughout different years. We haven't really discussed a limit on what year. It could be 9 through 12, 10 through 12. We haven't gone that far into that offering. But one thing that was important as well is that any kid, let's say there's a kid taking a marketing class, a sports marketing class, if we were having an experience working with the Crunch, any kids that were in the marketing class and any kids that were in the sport management class would be getting that same experience. So they would just be working with different departments when we go to intern there, more specific to what they're learning. So we've had relationships with Box Hall of Fame. Obviously, we have relationships with Syracuse University. We're working on currently. I actually met Fran this past weekend and introduced myself and told him we were working with Dion and those guys. So he's excited to work with us. And also Syracuse Crunch are a big piece, and we've actually reached out to the Nexus Center as well. So there are a lot of places wanting to work with us. We're one of the only ones doing it and trying to get out there. We're really on the cutting edge of this stuff.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Tracy? Tax levy limit.
Material that makes people's eyes glaze over. So someday I'll get exciting material, which is exciting to me. So we're gonna walk through the tax levy limit. So we're at the time we're in budget. One of the functions of the budget for school districts in New York State is we are required to meet a tax levy limit, and we're also required to submit that to the comptroller's office after board approval due March 1st. So we're going to walk through that. I do take this opportunity to really dive into it and talk about what it is and what it means, because oftentimes we hear this once a year, and there's been a lot of misnomers of what the tax levy limit is and how it works, and what does it mean? So what is the tax levy limit? As it says here, the tax cap law. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop and talk about a couple of these words here. The tax cap law. So that becomes part of the first piece of confusion when we talk about the tax levy limit. So politically, it was deemed as a tax cap law. Okay? There's nothing here as we walk through this that caps taxes. This is a tax levy limit. So, established in 2012, placing a limit on the annual growth of property taxes levied by local governments and school districts to 2% or the rate of inflation. So when we go through this and we talk about this, the only place in the entire calculation that refers to 2% is in this one piece of the calculation where we're looking at either CPI or 2%. It's the lesser of, and we'll talk about that. So first I ask, can a school district levy limit exceed 2%? It can. The answer is that. So it can. So one of the pieces here when we talk about this, and people will always say to me, oh, hold on a second, you're saying that your levy can increase by 3% or 4%. That's not true. It's 2%. That's what it says. It's 2% limit. As we walk through this and we talk about the calculation, we're going to see why that isn't true. And talk about the pieces that get added and deleted in this series of calculations before we get to the bottom line, which is then called our levy limit. That gives us the limit in the total levy that we can levy as a school district without exceeding the cap, and then it shows the difference. So the percentage ends up being the difference between last year and this year. And we're going to talk about that. So again, calculated using the allowable growth rate and CPI, and that's the piece that we are limited to 2%. So does anybody know what CPI is right now? It's 8%. Okay. So as we go through this calculation, it's 8% or 2% when we plug it into the calculation. So does this mean that my taxes can only go up 2%? Right? And the answer again there is no, because your tax levy and your tax rate are two different things. I talk a lot about this when I do my budget presentation, talk about taxes and how we get to the two different pieces. So right now, as the board is putting together the expenditure plan for next year, one of the pieces of the revenue is the levy. So that's what we're talking about right now. We're going to look at the calculation on the limit that is set through this calculation of what the board can go forward with as the tax levy. Okay. So what is the levy? It is that pool of money, right? So it's the pool of money that ends up into the revenue stream to offset our expenses. How or why is that different from the tax rate? The tax rate is calculated by three different factors, one being the levy. So we need to know what our levy is. Then we need our assessments, which we get from our assessors in August. We need our equalization rates. That gets plugged into a calculation, and it generates the tax rate. Tax rates are different by municipalities because equalization rates are different and assessments are different. The piece that the school comes up with is the levy. The other two pieces were given by the county and or the state. We don't get that information until August. So we can't even say, if we are here at this levy amount, what your tax rate is. We can say, we know our levy is going to be X. So again, true or false, can taxes go up more than 2%? They can, because again, they're two different things, right? So here's a question. Does the board have the ability to approve a levy that exceeds the levy? So we're going to look at the calculation in a minute, but just talking about some of these pieces. So when we go through it, and I say, okay, board, here's our calculation, as we go through this process, you're approving an expenditure plan. That's what a board approves, is an expenditure plan, right? They have to have the revenue behind it. So they will also approve the increase to the levy. They can go over that levy limit that we'll look at that comes through that calculation. But there are some things that happen if you exceed the levy limit, right? So first of all, why can we do that? We can do it because it's written into law. That's why, right? So that's what gives boards the ability to exceed the levy limit. It states in the law that that can happen. Who can approve an override? So interesting. In a school district, the voters approve an override. Okay? So in a school district, our budget, our expense budget goes to the voters. If we exceed the levy limit, 2/3 of the voters, 67% must approve the budget. If they don't, the levy goes to 0. Right? So it gives us no ability to raise funds to support our expenditure budget. The interesting fact here, that is every other government, county, town, city, every other government, who can approve an override? The board, their executive board. So if the village went over their limit, or the county went over their limit, it's their board, 2/3 of their board approve it, and not in a school district. So little interesting facts there. So here we go. Might be a little small, but I'm going to walk through this and look at the pieces. I'm sorry that this might be a little bit lengthy, but it is worth just taking a stroll through the calculation and what it means. So I kind of did color coded chart here. Items that are in green is information that is provided to us from various places. So we have information through CPI. This is Department of Labor. They set CPI. Tax-based growth factor, that comes from tax and finance. Every school is given a growth factor. And I just have here on line C what our current CPI is. Prior year, so in yellow, these are items that are carried over from the prior year's calculation. Blue is an actual calculation. And then orange is a calculation that we generate in order to plug into the spreadsheet. Okay? So as we walk through here, we'll see where the information comes from and how it impacts the levy limit. Looking across, we will look at last year's, look at 24-25, and then I do always do, that doesn't even make sense. We will always look at a year or two out, because what we want to hopefully ensure is that we have some stability. What we'll also talk about are a couple of the things that throw a tax levy calculation up or down as we go through the years. So again, these are just factors that come into the calculation. We start with last year's levy, and we multiply it by the tax growth factor, again, provided to us. 1.0051 is our number provided to us by tax and finance, generates us our prior year adjusted levy. Then we start, so I look at above L and below L. There are things that we add into the calculation. They're called exclusions, but they're adds. And then there are things that come out of the calculation, again, called exclusions, but they come out. So we are going to take prior years, we're going to take our pilots, we're going to add pilots in, we're going to add, I'm looking at, I'm over here, so if we look, kind of goes in a row. So we're looking at the 24-25, we take last year's pilots from below, we bring it up to the calculation, we add it in. We then take last year's capital local share, we add it in, and we obtain our adjusted prior year levy. So that starts the first part of the calculation. Now we're going to come down and we're going to multiply this by either CPI or the 2%, whichever is less, and we come to our adjusted our secondary adjusted limit. And now we start to add things in. So we take things out, we add things in. We're adding in our projected pilots for the 24-25 school year. And then we're adding in, there's a couple other exemptions here. Torts and judgments, very uncommon for a school district. We haven't had any, we don't have any. ERS and TRS exemption. Have not had one. I think the last time that there were exemptions, it's a minimum of 4 or 5 years ago. This is, so TRS and ERS are retirement systems. When the rate set by those systems exceed 2 percentage basis, we can go through this calculation and there is an exemption that we're allowed to add into our calculation. So for Canastota, we have to add back $3,502. So in the ERS system, when they set their rate is 2 percentage basis over last year's rate. No exemption for TRS, and then we add in the current year tax levy, local share. This is the piece that we want to be watching as we are doing long-range planning, doing infrastructure planning, looking at our debt long range, because when these numbers swing, this calculation. So if this number is small and this number is big, or vice versa, this throws our calculation, right? And we have these tilts and valleys. Bringing debt on, bringing debt off, timing of aid. So there's a secondary calculation behind each of these. They're driven by our debt schedules that we have vetted based on our bonds, and they're also driven by our projections from New York State based on our aid. So you go through the series of calculations, and this is the local share of debt. 391 last year, reducing as we go forward to 332, and that's kind of really the reason to look at the projection, because as we have projects come on, debt come off, aid come on, aid come off, it starts to swing. And again, we want to be cognizant and know in year 2 or 3 or 4, are we going to have a peak or a valley that we may need to be looking at. So we'll plug all the information in, brings us to our bottom line. Again, tax levy limit. We can put out a levy, $13,576,462. When you look at the calculation, it's an increase of 2.33 over last year's levy limit. So last year's tax levy, we can increase 2.33. Does anybody think that there's an issue with that? We cannot go to 233 because it's more than 2%. 2%, it's not enough. So our calculation allows us to go out with a levy increase of 2.33. The question earlier was, well, what does that equate to? I had this question just earlier. What does that equate to my tax rate? I don't know. We don't get that information until August. But the levy, we can increase 233. Okay? So in essence, we will be able to generate just over $310,000 from our levy from our prior year. Questions? Recap. Want me to do it again?
Start it backwards.
Start from the bottom up. So the next item on your agenda is to approve this, and I will submit to the State Comptroller's Office tomorrow. March 1st is the date that we are all required to submit, and shortly thereafter, generally, the news medias will pick up everybody's information, and they kind of will just, sometimes, it depends on, if it's a slow news day, they may do comparative information that comes out. Okay. Thank you.
New business, resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the board does hereby approve the 2024-2025 tax levy limit.
So moved.
Motion? Scott, second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Personnel recommendations. All appointments are pending clearance on fingerprinting. Substitute appointments. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the board does hereby appoint Ethan Bennett as a substitute cleaner at $18 an hour. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the board does hereby appoint Jeffrey Aquino as a substitute bus driver at $24.44 an hour. Motion?
Can we do those together?
Say what?
Can we do those together?
Oh, I
Or
don't.
do they have to be separate?
Yeah, we do them together, the
Sorry.
substitutes.
Brain's not brain, is it?
What's that?
We
Unless
can?
somebody tables a piece, yes.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
No discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the board does hereby approve the additional duties for Southside Elementary's interim principal to Karen Henner with an adjusted salary of $115,000 prorated effective February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2024. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Future dates, regular board meeting, March 12th, 6:30 here. Coaching. Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the board does hereby appoint the following paid and unpaid coaches for spring 2024 season as per attachment. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Motion to go into executive session for negotiations and personnel.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. We will not be coming back in 7:16.
Gotcha, I think the wording was just different on this one. It says like,
Who made the motion? I have no clue.
or maybe I'm just crazy. Going to senile in my old age.
That guy.
Scott?
Yep. I don't know, I couldn't figure it out.
That guy, she just said that guy. I didn't even hear it.
Most people wish they could forget about me, so.
I have for what, coaching or?
For the adjournment.
I have Kathleen.
Me.
Let's get a new sign made up for
No,
Mr.
I
Blanchard.
just was drawing a blank and could not.